The most powerful person you've ever been in a room with probably didn't say much. Think about that. While everyone else was performing, positioning, announcing they were watching, and by the time they finally spoke, they already knew everything they needed to know about everyone present. That's not coincidence. That's a system. And this video is going to show you exactly how it works, why being underestimated is the most dangerous position you can hold. Picture the moment. You walk into a room and realize, almost instantly, that no one is taking you seriously. Someone talks over you. A decision gets made without anyone asking your opinion. And everything in you wants to correct that, to speak louder, to assert yourself, to make it clear that you belong at the table. That instinct is understandable. It's also almost always the wrong move. Here's what actually happens when someone underestimates you. They stop watching. They stop calculating. They pull their attention from you and redirect it toward whoever they perceive as the actual threat. And in doing so, they hand you something that no amount of status, credibility, or loud self-promotion can buy: the freedom to move without being monitored. Think about what that actually means in practice. When no one is tracking your actions with precision, you collect information that others never get access to. You observe dynamics that only become visible when you're not trying to be seen. You identify the actual leverage points in a room, not the ones people perform around, but the ones that silently determine outcomes. Most people spend their entire professional and social lives trying to be taken seriously before they've accumulated the understanding that makes that seriousness warranted. They chase recognition before clarity. They want the perception of power before they've built the internal architecture that makes power real and sustainable. The ones who figure this out early stop chasing the perception entirely. There's a behavioral law at work here that almost no one names directly. When you need external validation to feel capable, you've handed control of your state, and therefore your decisions, to whoever is in the room with you at any given moment. That's not a small thing. That's the entire game, given away before it starts. Being underestimated removes that pressure entirely. No one is expecting a performance from you, which means you can stop performing. And the moment you stop performing, you start actually thinking. That shift from performance to observation is where real positioning begins. The most overlooked people in any environment are often the most informed ones in it. Not because they're more intelligent, because they stopped spending the cognitive energy that everyone else burns trying to manage how they appear, and redirected it entirely toward understanding what's actually happening. That redirection is a choice, one that's available to you right now, in any room you walk into. How silence becomes the sharpest tool in the room. Every time you speak, you reveal something. Not just your ideas, your assumptions, your insecurities, your gaps, your tells. The person who's actually paying attention is receiving all of that, free of charge, every single time you open your mouth. Most people never calculate this cost. They're too busy thinking about what they're going to say next to notice what they're giving away right now. Here's what the quietest person in any room is doing while everyone else talks. They're reading the gap between what people say and what their behavior reveals. The hesitation before a confident claim. The specific moment someone's tone shifts from assertion to defense. The subject that gets changed just slightly too fast. The agreement that comes just slightly too quickly. These signals don't require any special training to detect. They require something rarer: the discipline to stop broadcasting long enough to actually receive. In the late summer of 1919, a young man was left almost completely immobile by a severe illness. Unable to move, unable to participate in the world the way he'd always known, he did something that would quietly reshape how he understood human beings for the rest of his life. He watched. For months, he had almost nothing to do but observe the people around him, their expressions, their contradictions, the distance between what they said and what their faces refused to hide. What he developed during that stillness wasn't a theory. It was a precision of perception that most people never reach because they never stop moving long enough to see. Stoic philosophers built an entire discipline around a version of this same principle. Not silence as absence, but silence as active selection. The deliberate choice not to spend a resource before its moment. And here's where it gets counterintuitive. The restraint isn't weakness, It's accumulation. Every conversation where you listen more than you speak, you're banking something. The currency is attention, and attention, directed consistently and patiently, builds a picture of people and environments that no amount of talking could ever construct. When you finally spend that currency, the weight is different. Not because what you say is necessarily more brilliant than what anyone else could say, but because the rarity of the moment creates a quality of attention that performance can never manufacture. Has any of this ever clicked for you in a real situation, a moment where staying quiet gave you an advantage you didn't fully understand until later? Drop it in the comments. Those stories are what this channel is actually built on. Why the need to prove yourself is the tell that gives everything away. There's a reflex so deeply wired into human social behavior that most people never question it. Someone dismisses you. Someone underestimates your ability, your judgment, your value, and everything in you mobilizes toward a single objective, making them reconsider. It's instinctive, it's honest, and it is, almost without exception, the move that costs you the most. Here's the mechanism underneath it. The moment you begin trying to prove your value, you've transferred the authority to evaluate that value to someone else. They set the standard, they created the test, they chose the terrain. You're now performing on ground they selected, under conditions they established, at a moment that serves their frame, not yours. Second thing that happens, the effort itself signals need, not intentionally, behaviorally. Every action taken to force a recalculation communicates, in the clearest possible terms, that the original assessment landed, that it affected you, that their opinion carries enough weight over your internal state to change your external behavior. People who operate from genuine internal stability don't run that pattern, not because they're indifferent to how others perceive them, but because their functioning doesn't depend on that perception being favorable. They act. Results appear. Reassessment happens on its own timeline, without anyone having to campaign for it. Now, here's the part that cuts deeper. The compulsion to prove something is rarely about the other person. It's a response to internal discomfort. And that discomfort exists in direct proportion to the degree of uncertainty you carry about your own value. The person who has no unresolved questions about their worth doesn't feel the pull to answer someone else's doubts about it. Not from arrogance, from the simple absence of need. This isn't a character flaw, it's a diagnostic, and a useful one, because it locates the actual problem, which was never the other person's underestimation. The problem was the dependency that the underestimation activated. Treat the dependency, and the underestimation stops being a problem entirely. Psychologists have a specific term for the internal state that produces this kind of stability: calm confidence. Not the confidence that needs announcement, not the kind that rises when praised and collapses when ignored, the kind that operates at the same level regardless of the external climate. That state isn't a personality type, it's a result, and it tends to be built, not inherited, most often by people who were regularly underestimated and learned, through that specific pressure, to find their footing independent of anyone else's assessment. If this is resonating with where you are right now, the like is the clearest signal you can give. It's what helps this content reach the people who need it. What actually separates the people who use underestimation from the ones it destroys. There's a distinction that doesn't show up in how someone behaves in a single moment. It shows up in how they behave across time. And it's the clearest line between the person who emerges from repeated underestimation with more clarity and leverage than they started with, and the person who emerges with the same position and a growing accumulation of bitterness. The person who gets consumed by underestimation does one very specific thing. They archive it. They store the record of every slight, every dismissal, every moment of being passed over. And that archive becomes the lens through which every new situation gets interpreted. Over time, neutrality starts to look like hostility. Silence starts to register as contempt. The absence of recognition starts to feel like deliberate exclusion. This isn't moral weakness. It's the predictable output of a system that has learned to process external events as direct commentary on internal worth. When your sense of value is entangled with others' opinions, an unfavorable opinion becomes an existential event, and existential events drain resources at a rate that nothing else can match. The person who uses underestimation operates with a fundamentally different architecture. They separate the event from the meaning. Someone didn't take you seriously? That's a data point. Information about that person, that environment, that moment in time. It is not a verdict. It's not a permanent condition. It's a variable one that can be used, filed, or disregarded depending on what the situation actually requires. That separation doesn't happen automatically. It's built through a kind of internal work that most people avoid because it doesn't produce visible results fast enough to feel worth doing. But it's precisely what makes clear-headed movement possible in high-pressure situations. When everyone around you is operating on emotion and you're the only one in the room calculating, there's a principle that runs through Stoic philosophy, through samurai discipline, through every tradition of mental mastery that survived long enough to be worth studying. Disruption doesn't come from outside. It's generated within. The event doesn't affect you. Your interpretation of the event is what affects you. That's not philosophy for its own sake. That's a description of how the nervous system actually processes experience. And the person who has internalized this really internalized it, not just understood it intellectually, has access to something that no credential, no title, and no external recognition can replicate: the capacity to function well when conditions are unfavorable. Being underestimated is an unfavorable condition. What you do with it is an internal decision, and it's on that decision that everything else turns. Why? The most dangerous people in any room never need to announce themselves. There's a pattern that repeats across every environment where real decisions actually get made. Not the performance of power, the kind that gets photographed and posted. The kind that determines what happens next, where resources move, who ends up holding the outcome. The pattern is consistent. The person with the most influence is almost never the one who spoke the most. This is not mythology. It's behavioral mechanics. When someone talks constantly, the people around them calibrate. The voice becomes ambient. The presence becomes expected rather than noticed. The words carry less weight precisely because there are always more words coming. But when the person who rarely intervenes finally says something, the group's attention system recalibrates automatically. Not necessarily because the content is more intelligent, because rarity signals relevance. It's a primitive mechanism, completely predictable, and almost universally ignored by people who are too busy filling silence to let it work. People who have understood this don't speak less because they have less to say. They speak less because they've calculated the value of the moment. And that calculation extends far beyond speech. The person who doesn't feel compelled to announce every achievement, every transition, every move they're making, they're accumulating something that the constant announcers are spending: unpredictability, the perception that there is more operating beneath the surface than what's visible. These qualities function as authority multipliers in any social environment, without requiring a single claim to be made about them. Here's the inversion that most people miss when they try to apply this. Strategic silence is not absence. It is not passivity with better branding. It's not introversion repackaged as wisdom. It's high-quality participation at low frequency. That distinction matters because without it, silence becomes withdrawal. And withdrawal doesn't build authority. It produces irrelevance. The person operating from underestimated ground doesn't disappear. They stay present. They observe, collect, and calculate. They simply don't spend energy where it doesn't need to be spent. When they move, the movement carries precision. When they speak, the words carry weight. Because neither was predictable. Being underestimated, understood correctly, isn't a phase to push through. It's a position to hold for exactly as long as it serves the outcome you're building toward. You leave it when you choose to, not when external pressure forces your hand. If what you heard in this video shifted something in how you see the rooms you walk into, subscribe and turn on notifications. What comes next in this channel goes further into the mechanics of how this plays out in real environments, under real pressure, with real stakes. One specific question before you go: think of a moment when someone underestimated you, and it actually worked in your favor, even if you only recognized it in hindsight. What happened? Drop it in the comments. The patterns in those answers are worth more than most strategy books. There's one thing no environment will hand you ready-made: The judgment to know when to move and when to hold. But there's a practice that builds that judgment faster than almost anything else. Before any impulsive response, any defense, any correction, any forced demonstration of value, stop for 10 full seconds. Don't use that time to rehearse what you'll say. Use it to observe what you're feeling. That gap between stimulus and response is where choice lives. And choice, exercised consistently, is where the whole thing begins.